The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
Hello again, welcome to Practically Magic. This is Courtney Pearl. Today I am your healer, folk witch, and here to talk about all things magical. I have devoted my life to studying and recognizing real magic and energetics that exists in the world and how you can access that and make it play a part in your life. And today I'm going to go on a topic that has been brought to my attention, a few friends and people that have come for card readings with me. And I feel like this subject has come up a few times. So that is what has inspired today's episode about living a delusional life and why maybe that's a benefit. Okay, I'm going to start out with a card reading. We're going to pull a card. I just recently got to visit the Conjuring Tree at their new location around the corner from where they used to be. And they are in this fabulously big space. I purchased this hat from them. So you're going to see me around town wearing this hat a lot. If you cannot see it, it's because you're not watching on YouTube. So check it out. Purchased a hat and I purchased a new tarot deck, which I absolutely love already. This tarot deck is written by Christopher Hughes, who wrote Druidry and is head of the Druid Order in Anglesey. I have crossed paths with a lot of the same people who run in the circles with Christopher Hughes. I have not met him myself yet, which only makes me so sad. I'm hoping one day I will get to rub elbows with him and have a conversation with him. But for now, I'm reading his book and I'm excited to have his Celtic Tarot deck. Christopher Hughes. Yeah. Okay, so a lot of Celtic themes in this deck and I love it. The artwork is pretty cool. I'm just getting familiar with that. And as I have been preparing to record, I'm actually several days late on recording this episode on what day I had scheduled or planned to. But to be honest, we had the full moon in Pisces a couple of weeks ago from the time that I'm recording this. And the energy has just been so chaotic, so emotional. Getting sick with a cold, feeling depressed, feeling down, feeling like all of the burdens of the entire world's energy was on my shoulders. And I don't know if anyone else is feeling this, but I am a Pisces. Pisces is my sun sign. And if I'm learning anything about astrology, it's that I can feel things pretty heavily, which is a blessing and a curse at times. So I will just be honest with you. It has been rough. And I have probably changed the topic of what this episode is going to be a few times because I kept thinking, well, maybe I want to talk about this. No, that doesn't quite feel right. Maybe this. And there were days this week where I literally just could not get my act together. Like, you have those days, where you just are like, I just don't feel it. I just don't feel up to it. And that's rare for me. I'm very, very open to talking about anything and everything all the time, usually. But this week, I wanted to crawl inside my hole and I didn't want to talk to anybody and I really didn't want to go out or do anything. And I definitely didn't feel like recording an episode. So I apologize for how I'm bringing that energy into what we're talking about today. Today feels like just kind of like I am going to go with this and we're going to just see what happens kind of a day, which is all right. And I apologize for how I sound because I probably don't sound super clear. I've kind of got the remnants of a cold that I've been fighting with all week. So let's begin. We've got our card Oh my gosh. Yes. Ugh. How crazy. Yeah, this is for sure the right card to pull. I have pulled the Ten of Swords. Now, as I let people know when I'm doing a card reading is I don't really believe in good or bad cards, but tarot is definitely a sort of divination modality that is real raw and real honest. Whereas oracle cards, it's kind of like your gateway divination because oracle cards can a lot of times be just really great for affirmations and for what it is that you need to hear at the moment you need to hear it. And it's usually just very uplifting. Tarot can be uplifting as well, but it's kind of like that friend of yours that's going to tell you exactly what she thinks, and she does it because she loves you, but it's sometimes hard to hear. Do you know what I mean? When you're like, oh, I know she's right, but man, she can be kind of a witch. That's tarot in the relationship I have with it. So Ten of Swords. I'm going to show this on the video for those of you who are able to see. This is the Ten of Swords from this tarot, the Celtic tarot. And oh, it's pretty much what it looks like in most of the tarot decks that I have. It's a body laying on the ground with 10 swords sticking out of it. Out of their back specifically, kind of like, you know, definitely they didn't do this self-inflicted. It's definitely someone stabbing them in the back 10 times with 10 swords. And everything that I just described about this week and how difficult it's been, and maybe the energy of what the full moon, this is eclipse season, what all of that has felt like and what it means to those of us who are, especially those who are empathetic or who are very, who are empaths, who are sensitive to energies, who just feel things deeply. I try to pretend that I'm not as affected. I try to go about my life acting like, well, yeah, the moon is in whatever phase and we're in whatever astrological season, or, you know, the planets are wherever they're at. And I'm aware of all that. But I try to pretend like I can just continue living my life however I've planned it, however my planner needs it to look. I'm also a Libra rising. And I kind of feel like this impacts me in the way that I continually want balance. I continually want my schedule to be balanced out. I want everything to be in its place. And when I make a schedule, it's pretty much I'm going to follow it unless something major happens. Well, this week, that is just not how it's been. My schedule has been made and completely thrown out the window. Being sick, there were days when I just felt like I can't even open my eyes and get out of bed. I feel so tired. So I would send the kids off to school. And even though I had this schedule or this to-do list, I just blew it off and went back to bed. And that didn't make me feel better because there was still that part of me that was like, you shouldn't be in bed. You should be getting stuff done. There's all these things that need to be done. You know, you're not that sick. You can get up and do some things. And it has been like being at war with myself. So the Ten of Swords coming up is no surprise at all, because I feel like the energy around this week has been, or the message that it has been for me has been, you needed to go through this week, this hard, hard week, to remind you that some things need to die. That there are certain expectations you are keeping or you are holding for yourself that cannot possibly be good for you. And even though you've decided that this is what you should be doing, we've got a case of the shoulds and we need to get rid of it. So kind of reinventing, recalculating, reflecting on what it is that I'm really doing here and what do I want to be spending my time on. And that's been kind of coming up a lot lately, where I've been really busy, really burning myself out, burning the candle at both ends and trying to do it all, and losing sight of the vision of what it is that I really want to make happen. And that is where the theme today, we can roll into that, because I have been receiving this message and some of the card readings that I've been doing and some of the people that I've been talking with, and I realize as a Pisces, it's very easy for me and has always been easy for me to disassociate. And psychologists will tell you that disassociating is a common coping mechanisms for trauma and for dealing with hard things, avoiding those hard things, avoiding triggers, avoiding pain, avoiding what we don't want to face. We tend to disassociate. In the energetic world, it's the same vocabulary. We can say disassociating, but we can also call it leaving your body, living in a delusional kind of state of mind where instead of dealing with the reality of what's happening around you, we tend to create a new reality in our head or step outside of our body in our mind or in our spirit or from into kind of a different dimension or astral projection or however you want to explain that happening. But there is a removal, right? And it leaves us feeling really not grounded. So in our chakras, instead of being grounded in our body and present in the moment and supporting our root chakra, we tend to rise up into our head or out of our head into the crown chakra, into the above. It's almost as if we're above our bodies and witnessing what's going on with our bodies from above. So a lot of times I will ask people if they feel like they've been just kind of doing life on autopilot while also living life kind of outside of the realm of what they're experiencing. And I want to say that just like I've heard psychologists say that disassociating is not necessarily a bad thing because we learn to do it at a young age. We learn to do this as a coping strategy to, especially for young children, they learn to do this because they're in a situation they have little or no control over. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially when I'm doing emotional processing sessions with clients and they'll say, when I was dealing with this or when I was in this situation that was very difficult, I just tended to leave my body or I tended to just pretend it wasn't happening or, avoid it in some way or just go numb and live in a state of apathy while things were happening. When they were getting potentially yelled at or abused or whatever kind of situation they found themselves in. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be that traumatic or dramatic. It just is traumatic for the child. And when you don't have control over the situation, disassociating is a very, very clever way to protect yourself. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But to remain in that state constantly is not healthy. And your body and spirit or body and mind and soul need to be as whole and integrated as possible for most of the time to be able to operate at optimum capacity, to be able to be present in the moment and also feeling joy and feeling in control and feeling connected is optimal for health, for all kinds of reasons, for your body's health, for your mind's health. But that being said, I think that whether it's for traumatic reasons or not, I tend to live in a fantasy world most of the time, just so that I can attract or be a part of a certain frequency or vibration that I would like to attract in my life. And I'll kind of try to give some examples. So, and I think that there's a lot of people that are like me that just are, we're probably very imaginative children. And this is just how they learned to make their lives a little bit more magical or a little bit more fantastical than what was average. We all want to feel special and important. We all want to feel significant. We all want to feel like maybe we're the ones who are going to receive that Hogwarts letter and say, you are special. We've deemed you as somebody who has some magical powers or has some connection to something more exciting than the average muggle life, right? Something in that capacity. That's why we all love the stories that are told about some average girl or average boy who all of a sudden their life changes when it's found out that they're a descendant of Merlin, or they're part fairy, or there's a prophecy about them that they are the chosen one meant to save everyone, or some such thing like that. We all love that kind of storyline because it gives us that specialness that we all hope to have, right? But the truth is, every single one of us is that, and that makes all of us pretty average, right? And I think everybody engages with that kind of storyline in a different way. Some people just enjoy it, and some people wish it was them. And some people are really not. I guess depending on their astrological zodiac signs, they might engage with that storyline or that fantasy world differently. There's a lot of people who don't enjoy fantasy at all. They would really rather live in the logical, practical reality world that they can see, touch, and feel around them. But I do think that there is something to be said for imagining your life exactly how you would will it or would want it to be, even if it's going through the motions of everyday things. And it's not so much to disassociate or to avoid triggers or to avoid some kind of pain that we're not willing to face, or some kind of shadow part of us that we're just not quite ready to see and heal and witness. But it can be a really great way to manifest what it is we were looking for in our lives. So, for example, let's say I really, really want to just be the type of person like a Kim Kardashian who doesn't worry about money. My day is filled with exciting adventures and just, meeting and connecting with people. And I am like a celebrity. I really can do no wrong. I'm just walking through the day kind of going, oh, I have this meeting and I have that meeting and I have this to do and I have that to do. And all of it is stuff that I'm passionate about and I'm creatively involved in. And that's how I would like to see my life at that moment in time. Well, my life is pretty average. It's no different than any probably typical Mormon mom, Utah mom who's around here that just is like trying to start a business and is just kind of like trying to raise her kids and needs to pick up the kids when school gets out and got to make a grocery list. Like that's just kind of my average everyday life. But if I live in a delusional fantasy that this is the way that my life is busy, like a Kim Kardashian type busy, um, it does no harm to me or anyone else that I live in my own head like this is all part of my fantastic, wealthy empire that I am busy all day taking care of things. Now, if I live in that reality, what I'm doing is I am allowing my body to raise to a vibrational frequency of sort of like pretend. I mean, when you're a little kid, you can walk around the grocery store with your mom and pretend like instead of a grocery store, you're in a castle and you're a princess and you're walking around the castle instead of the grocery store. And all that does is make the trip to the grocery store a little less boring and making you feel like you're royalty walking around this giant, massive building as a princess. And to me, yes, I can understand how some people would be like, well, that's just insanity. You are just an insane person if you just walk around thinking you're living a different life than you actually are. And I would beg to differ. I would say, why not make your life more magical in your own head, even if it's just you who's imagining it? Why not? And what if it actually benefits you by changing your neural pathways from living in worry and fear and anxiety, worrying that you're going to be late to all these things you have to do and you have to hurry here and you have to hurry there and you don't have enough money to make all of these things happen that you need to have. And how is living in that vibrational frequency or mindset helping you attract what it is you want in your life? What if we believed ourselves to be actually magical? Because, as you probably already know, if you've been listening to this podcast at all over the last year, I truly do believe we are all magical. I think the magic looks a little different than what they portray in movies, but I do believe that there is something to be said about believing in yourself and believing in you manifesting what it is you want. And as I've said before on other episodes, I believe that what they tried to write about in The Secret or in The Science of Getting Rich is they tried to give that to people. There is real magic. There is something about believing in something and living in it in your mind that projects that out into the universe and then attracts it to you. So all you have to do is ask for it and then receive it. Well, that all sounded really, really great. And I think there was a ton of people that got really excited. And, I remember when The Secret was all over television and all over, they were discussing it everywhere. And people were getting really excited, but it phased out. And I think it phased out because people didn't have the whole formula. They didn't know what it was that made that sort of thing happen. And not all of us can live in a state of positive thinking all the time. I'm actually one who believes that maybe that is somewhat toxic to be in we have to think positively all the time, never ever say anything, never have any doubts. But it's true that when you're using the law of attraction, if you doubt it, if you have fear, you're lowering your vibrational frequency to match that fear instead of what you can do to raise your vibrational frequency to live in a world where that is already coming to you. There have been many ways in my life where this has happened and worked out for me, which is that there have been times where I've asked for something in one way, shape, or form or another. There's a lot of different ways to ask for something. And asking who, you might say, asking your higher power, asking the creative source of the universe. When people say the universe, I want the sciencey people to understand that, yeah, we understand that the universe is not actually giving us things. It's more about the creative force that created the universe that is also creating things for us individually. So we're tapping into that power. We're tapping into what exists. We think it, therefore it exists. I once saw this sculpture when I was going around art galleries, and I saw this sculpture where there was it was a bronze sculpture, and it had a scale, looked like, kind of the justice scales, right? And on one side of the scale was a bundle of eggs. Unhatched, unbroken, just eggs. And on the other side of the scale were chicks. A number of chicks standing on the scale. This was all made out of bronze. And the scale weighed the same. It was equal, right? It wasn't imbalanced in any way. And I stood there looking at this scale for a very long time. I looked at the sculpture and I was just really contemplating it. And the woman who owned the gallery walked up and said, "What do you think this sculpture means? What do you see out of it?" And I said, "I think it means that the very idea of something has equal value to the actual manifestation of the thing. It's not that the chicks had hatched yet. It's the idea that they will hatch, that they are already being brought into being into the universe that is equal value to the thing actually being there, the chicks that have hatched. And I think about this concept a lot. It's like, does it matter that I actually am a powerful magical witch, seeing me create spells about, money or beauty, or I don't know, to be thinner, to be wealthier, to have more free time, to have more leisure, to have joy and happiness, to have connected, vulnerable, beautiful relationships with my family members, with my friends? Is it enough just to believe that those things are already possible? And that by believing that they're possible, I am already creating that and making that happen for myself. So I said I would give some examples. If you can see me in the video, if you're watching YouTube, I have on a necklace. It's a Celtic tree knot necklace on a rope. I've been wearing it a lot lately. I purchased a necklace exactly like this when we were doing in vitro treatments for my twins, when I hadn't gotten pregnant yet, and we had to drive out to California. And during that time, I was very into the idea of understanding the different universal laws of attraction and kind of what that looked like and how to use that. I was not calling myself a witch at that point in time. Didn't see any association with that, but have always loved witches and witchy stuff. Anyway, the driving out to California to do the treatments and the appointments that we needed to do, we were in Sacramento, and there was this adorable little witchy metaphysical shop with all kinds of, jewelry, crystals, tarot, incense, the type of things you typically see, dream catchers. I mean, the kind of place. Smells like patchouli, right? And we went in, it was in Old Town Sacramento. We walked in and I saw this Celtic tree knot with the stone in the middle that was really pretty and colorful. And I love things that are colorful. So I purchased it, and I kind of infused it with a spell, if you will, before I knew that that's what I was doing. I basically said, this is my talisman or my good luck charm for this transfer of embryos, hoping that I would be able to get pregnant, that would be something that I wanted very, very much, and that this would help me. And I wore it for the transfer. I wore it during all of the weeks that I was waiting to find out if the transfer took and the embryos took, and we would possibly maybe be pregnant. And, it was a very exciting time. I was very nervous. I'd never been pregnant before, never even had the chance to possibly be pregnant ever. So this was a really exciting time for me. And you can see in all the pictures, I'm wearing this necklace. And it turned out it worked. We got pregnant with our twins. I had them. Time went on, and I lost the necklace. At some point, I don't know when, but when I moved or something, necklace was gone. And I really loved that necklace. I loved the way it looked, despite what it meant to me sentimentally. I liked the way it looked, and I really wanted it back. But I couldn't find it anywhere. And I honestly couldn't find anything just exactly like it anywhere. And so I sort of put it out into the universe, like, I just really want that necklace back. I really want the same one if I can find it. And just this last summer, we were driving through Sacramento to go to a family reunion in California. And so when we were passing through, we stopped in Old Town Sacramento, and I went to the same exact shop again to go see if I could find it. And they didn't have one. They had a Celtic tree knot necklace that was similar without the stone. And I purchased that because I was kind of like, well, at least it's something kind of similar. Not a couple of, oh, it was maybe 2 months later after that, we were in Trolley Square shopping uh, when we were staying there in Salt Lake for a staycation for our anniversary, my husband and I. And we were just shopping around, window shopping, looking around at the shops at Trolley Square. And lo and behold, for the first time in years, I saw this exact same necklace was right there in the shop. And I feel like you can call it coincidence, and that's fine too. But I have had so many experiences in my life where I ask for something specifically, and then I live in a delusional world as if I already have it. And I'm not sure if I'm making any sense to anyone, but I live in a state of mind and body as if I already have the thing I want. And I can rarely think of a time when that didn't work to get me the thing I wanted. I've been very blessed and very lucky. And I realize that because of a lot of reasons, socioeconomic and all kinds of other reasons, I'm a very privileged person. I recognize that. But I am inviting people to live in a delusional world once in a while and see how it feels to say, if I had this, if I could do this, if I lived my life like in my wildest fantasies, what that would look like. The worst that can happen is that you never get the thing you want, but you get to live for moments at a time in your mind as if it is happening. And you get to feel the joy and the excitement of, wow, wouldn't this be amazing? For me, I find it a little bit easier, maybe because I am a Pisces. I have always, since I was a child, lived like this. I like to try on different lives just for fun. In fact, when I'm taking walks, and I take walks often in my neighborhood, one of my favorite things to do is walking past different houses or townhomes or apartments. I, walk by a lot of different places here in Daybreak, and I love to imagine what my life would be like if I lived in those houses or in those places. My life with my children and my family and my pets and everything, living in a townhome is not suitable for me, I guess, at this moment in time. But I absolutely love the townhouses here. They're so cute and they're so tall. They're like 4 stories. Some of them are balconies on the roof. I just think they're so amazing. So every once in a while, just for fun, I'll walk past those different, cool aesthetic houses and townhouses. And I think, what if I were like a single woman and I was a writer and I had my office on the very top floor or my artist studio on the very top floor of one of these townhouses, and it overlooked the whole valley. I could see mountains on every side and all the people who walk by, and maybe I have a dog, or a cat, or both. And once in a while, I take my dog out for a walk while I'm on my breaks from writing or from doing art. And I just live my single woman lifestyle like that. It used to bother my husband so much that I would always be like, oh, what if we did this? What if we moved here? What if we lived in that house? What if we did that? He would be like, why can't you ever be satisfied with the life you have? And I really thought about that. And I thought, that's not really what it is that makes me do that. Because I am very happy and very grateful for the life I have. I make sure to take a lot of space and time in being grateful for what I have and what my life looks like. But I also take great enjoyment in the what ifs and the wouldn't it be lovely if. I often play the game, if I won $50 million in the lottery right now, what would I do? How would I take the life I live right now and change it slightly? Not too much, because I'm pretty happy with my life. I'm pretty happy with my house, with where I live, the friends I've made. I'm not looking to like change it up dramatically, but if I won an amount of money that just made absolutely anything possible, I love living in that life for a moment in my mind. And I think that sometimes people don't realize the actual physiological effects that it has on you when you live in a delusional moment or a delusional life of what if. That it actually can help change neural pathways to make you live differently, to have you make different choices, to have you say, what if I just lived as if everything, certain things that I wanted just already were happening? And then the more you live in that state of mind, in that state of pleasure, you start to see changes in your life happen towards that thing happening to you. And it's kind of a magical way that it comes about. So I'm going to leave you with a little bit of an assignment, a little bit of homework in just what if everybody just tries it out? I'm going to ask you for the next week to give yourself moments, maybe right before you're about to fall asleep, and say, what if? Or wouldn't it be lovely if? And then imagine an entire scenario of what your life would look like if that one thing were different or that one thing was already yours. And it can be something very small. It could be like, if I had an e-bike, I don't have one, but I wish I had one. And if I did have one, what would I do with it? When would I ride it? Maybe I'd ride it over to the store, or maybe I would take it for ice cream and back again, and something very simple like that. And just see what happens. Not that you maybe get the e-bike within the next week or couple weeks, but what if you notice some changes in you, in how you feel, in how you interact with life? What if it's a really boring day at work and you just decide, instead of being at work, I'm going to pretend like I am a super important executive woman with a very high paying career. And this is me going about my day as a very, very important person. And maybe you work the receptionist desk at a doctor's office. Not that glamorous, maybe, but you just live in your mind as if it is a really glamorous job. Now just notice how you feel. Notice what that kind of delusion or that kind of slight healthy dose of disassociation will do for your entire well-being, mentally, emotionally, physically. Sometimes when it's about maybe losing weight or like, I've been packing on some extra pounds, I really feel uncomfortable in my body. What if you live in a delusional world where you are a very fit, well person and that your body looks exactly like you wish that it did look? Sometimes this part gets me into trouble because for a while I was gaining weight because I was actually living in a delusion that I was much thinner than I actually was getting. But even living in that delusion has helped me to get back on track because now I can use it to help me eat the way a really healthy person would instead of eating pretty much whatever, anything and everything that I wanted, which was what was kind of getting me into trouble in that. So that's one that I have to be careful about. So maybe that's a warning to you to be careful with that one. Anyway, I hope that this helps. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. We've pretty much ran the gambit of all the delusions you can live in your life. Well, I do want to let you know that I am finalizing my class for the full moon course. The full moon course that I am offering with Prism Healing, it is starting October 20th. I am going to be offering this very special course, and it is going to be a very, very unique opportunity. A lot of times when we do feel stuck in our lives and we feel like we've we're completely lost, we're confused, we're overwhelmed, we're going through a big shift or transformation in our lives, it's really difficult to do that on your own. It's difficult to see where the light at the end of the tunnel may be. And so when I do these healing through art workshops, I created a 6-month course where we will have a workshop class around the full moon every month. And the themes will be based on some Celtic mythologies that I will tell a bit of folklore or story that goes with the theme of what we are releasing in that session. And so starting October 20th, our first full moon, we're going to do a healing through art class together. And then you will get weekly discussions and journal prompts throughout the month in our closed online group. And then we meet again every month around the full moon to do another release. So we do another healing through art class, and we get to work on different belief systems, different patterns, different deep healing and witnessing of ourselves. It's something that I know when I was in the most desperate states of my healing journey, I would have very much benefited from. So I wanted to make sure that something like this existed or is offered to clients of mine. So if you're interested in joining that full moon course, you can find it on my website, as well as a blog post for this episode. So my website is prism-healing.com, Prism being Prism, M is in Mark. So prism-healing.com is where you can find my classes, workshops, my services. If you'd like to book a session with me for emotional processing, for Reiki, for intuitive card reading, that is where you can find me. And that is where I support myself. So if you love and enjoy this podcast, you can help support me in being able to continue making this podcast by looking at what Prism Healing has to offer and see if there is anything that can help you in your life to find your magic, to find out how magical you really are. You can also find me on Instagram at Prism_healing or on TikTok at Prism Healing, and on Facebook, Courtney Pearls Prism Healing. If you look up Practically Magic, you can also, it will take you to my website, and all of the blog posts that I make on my website are corresponding to an episode of Practically Magic. So if any of the things that we've talked about today interest you and you're thinking, I don't know what she's talking about, I want to know more about that, you can always message me on any of those sites, and you can look back at the past episodes that I have done and recorded that talk about the real magic and how it works. So I hope to be able to provide you with more ways to make your life more magical and to heal and witness yourself more. So go make magic. And I would like to thank our sponsors. I would like to thank Jess Blaine, who is my co-host on the Witch Movie Project. If you are not watching that side project of mine, it's a blast. We're reviewing witch movies all through the month of September and October, and getting ready for a live podcast event that we are going to be hosting, the Witch Movie Project live podcast. And we're selling tickets to that now, so you can check that out. But I would like to thank Jess Blaine for being my producer and producing and putting out episodes of Practically Magic on Ride the Wave Media. I would also like to thank Sarah at Sunshine Community for putting together a beautiful community of women supporting other women in business and in our creative endeavors. And I'd like to thank you, listeners. Thank you for listening. Share this with somebody who you think needs a little bit of magic in their lives, and that would help me to create more episodes for you. Thank you. Witches and wizards, go make magic.